I get that phone call from, an adult daughter or son, and Mom, Dad always said that we could call you, and this has happened, and we don't know what to do, but we're sure you're going to help us through this. I distinctly remember some phone calls like, wait a minute, where's the money? Why were we in all these tech stocks?
But you said to me one day, I think you should make the next investment. What do you want to do? And I cried because no one had ever asked me that before.
And it came out that this gentleman had a list in his desk of things he wanted to do at some point during his life. His wife is sitting here and has no idea that list exists.
Wow. When Ryan brought up your LifeRaft drills, I loved it. We can actually go through scenarios. We can run a drill. We can talk about the what-ifs. I say it's putting the face to that monster that's so scary, and all of a sudden, he's not so scary anymore. That's one of the, if not the biggest question that families ask. Are we going to be okay?
Welcome to the Worth Beyond Wealth podcast,
where net worth meets personal worth. I'm Shannon.
I'm Ryan. We help families navigate the emotional, relational, and personal realities that money alone can't solve.
If you've built wealth but still wonder what it all means, or how to keep your family grounded while protecting your legacy, you're in the right place.
We sit down with experts and with you to talk identity, purpose, and connection beyond the balance sheet.
Because true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the impact we make and the relationships we nurture.
So grab a seat,
take a breath,
and let's redefine what it means
to be truly wealthy together.
This is the Worth Beyond Wealth podcast.
I think we can start with just saying that we know there's a historic amount of wealth moving to women in particular. And the job here at RW is to help them feel ready, confident. The word that comes to me is safe. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think in particular, we're introducing Raleigh Vachek today, and you show what strong stewardship looks like in real life, clear plans, shared decision-making, simple next steps, trying to lower the stress. This episode in particular, we're wanting to give families and women language and habits that they can start to use right away. Who are you here at RW? You.
Yes.
Principal.
Yes.
You're a wealth advisor, a CFP. You lead the advisory team and you set the bar for great client meetings. You started at RW in a support role and you've grown into ownership. Talk about that for a second.
When I talk about how I started in this industry, I fell into it. I had a class my senior year of college that was, really looking at all different areas of finance and investments. And I didn't really know what that meant. But the professor said, write down an industry that you're curious about and that you would like to maybe go job shadow. So I went and met with a gentleman at an investment firm. And I just said, I really want to help people, but I don't want to sell stuff. Like, I'm not really a salesman, but I want to help people. And he's like, oh, I think you have a great rapport. You're a good listener. You'd be great in our industry. And this was in northern Colorado. And I said, well, I want to move back to Idaho. And this was right in the spring of 2000. So naively, I thought it would be really easy for me to, find a job. And it was early enough before the tech bubble that I was able to fall into a job. So he literally picked up the phone, called a cohort here in Boise and said, I have a gal you should consider hiring. And he said, I don't have a job open. He said, well, make one. And I literally said, I'll do anything. I was just hungry and curious and wanted to learn. And I thought, investments would be great. And so moved to Boise. And at that time, we had a wire operators, brokers, now hopefully financial advisors, but brokers at that time would handwrite tickets and we would enter them on the wire to put in orders. So just a very different time. Phones were ringing like crazy to locally buy extended systems. So just a very different time. I liked the energy. Every day was something different, but I knew that I wanted something deeper. So I really quickly decided I wanted to get my CFP, become a certified financial planner. I did not feel satisfied by picking stocks. I knew there had to be a better way. And, very quickly in the early 2000s, the tech bubble happened. A lot of people lost a lot of money. There definitely was a better way. And so that's kind of how I think, fell into the industry to start and then got my CFP and then was fortunate to work with another great team and just grow into the planning piece. More professional institutional management. And then, so really started from the ground up though, just went into an associate advisor role and just really cared about the clients, the people, the planning. That part I really enjoyed.
It's really kind of an organic story for you.
Yes.
When I listen to that story, it's it was intuitive to you to seek worth beyond wealth. So there was nothing attractive about
Selling.
the idea of selling, the idea of being a broker, of trading. It was, how do I plan for people? How do I help people? I think that gives you, still to this day, that is the activity and the stuff that gives you joy.
Absolutely.
So when you think about what gives you joy today in this industry, is there anything that comes to mind?
I think we're so fortunate to be part of these families. I have said, when I'm working with younger advisors, oftentimes we're a first phone call that happens when there's some amazing news or some tragic news. And what a privilege to be part of these families and hopefully help guide them. So whether it's a marriage or a new birth and what should I do for my grandchild, those are the fun conversations, or when it's a scared, unexpected death and what do I do? We can be that steady voice, that voice of calm. There's many instances where I get that phone call from, an adult daughter or son, and Mom, Dad always said that we could call you and this has happened and we don't know what to do, but we're sure you're going to help us through this. And so I think it is such a privilege. And so while it can be hard at times, it's a blessing to be part of these families. And I think that can give me such joy, just knowing that you can provide sense of peace of mind, which is really hard. So just, knowing you have that phone call, that person that can help you through it during exciting or difficult times.
Right.
So I think that's what I would say.
So the transitions planned and unplanned.
All of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Worth beyond wealth. When you picture a good life, what matters most that money can't buy? When you're working with these families, that's kind of, I'm sure that's always in the back of your mind, right?
Absolutely. And I think families have different but similar challenges. One of the basics that I think you hear is, gosh, I want the same opportunities for my kids that I had. And if not the same, maybe even better opportunities. So I think that's something that's really important. And oftentimes that doesn't have anything to do with finances. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it's just, I want my kids to have meaningful relationships. I want them to have connections. And so there are challenges in this world today. I mean, even watching our kids grow up, they're growing up in a different world than we did. So I think just facilitating some of those conversations with families about what's important to you, how are you going to make that happen? Sometimes it is, maybe encouraging them to do some big family excursion that maybe the Gen 1 is going to finance, but it allows for making memories and connections.
I love that.
And sharing something that's important. So I think oftentimes we're just facilitating some conversations around what's important and then saying, well, have you thought about this? Maybe you should do this. And sometimes that involves, spending some money and sometimes it involves getting involved in charities that are important to them and sharing that with the next gen, sharing some of those values.
So do you think just your life experience as a daughter, a wife, a mother, do you think that has just kind of brought this holistic picture for you that helps feed the way you coach families?
Completely. And maybe you've talked about working genius on here or not, but one of my working geniuses is enablement. And I used to think that was a bad word.
Right.
I used to think enablement is terrible.
Different than enabling, right?
There's different
meanings.
There's
when I
different
first
meanings.
heard that, because that's me too, with working, I was like, wait a second, that's really negative, right? No.
So what I've come to realize as a daughter, as a wife, as a mother, as an advisor, for me, enablement is really trying to anticipate unmet needs. And that's me to a T. Like, I love to plan and prepare and make sure that there's enough food. I don't want to run out of food. Or, gosh, if someone got injured, do I have the right first aid supplies? So just thinking through all those pieces. So absolutely. I think these other various roles very much has prepared me for my role as a financial advisor, really a coach, part of that family, coming alongside, helping them prepare and plan ahead.
And I heard you say, encouraging them to make memories.
Yes.
Encouraging them to, what's that good life? Make memories. That's what I heard you say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that for you is worth beyond wealth.
Completely.
Yeah, you said it. I'll just echo. We are in such a privileged position to be guides for heroes on their journey. It's interesting. all the various things. And for one family, it's trips, and for another, it might be a second home, and all the different ways that family values various things. I just want to bring this up. You've done this so well over the years. You do lifeboat drills with people. Can you talk about that?
And I think of this in my role right now. So I have a daughter that I just dropped off at college. And
How are you doing, Maya?
doing all right.
We have orientation today with our daughter.
Hang on. I think if we can talk about some of the what ifs, it's less scary if and when it happens.
Yeah.
And if we can just prepare, again, it's less scary. So I think with clients, we don't want to just talk about all the exciting fun stuff, which is important. We want to talk about, okay, what are some of your fears? And let's go down that path and let's understand, okay, well, what if this does happen? What does this mean for you? Because yes, if that happens to your finances, to your money, what's the impact to your life? Sure. What's the impact to your family? Right. So thinking through all those pieces. So when we do lifeboat drills, it's really talking about some of those what if scenarios. And then from there, I think it's good to talk about, well, what's the likelihood that this could happen? Because you also have to put it in perspective. So I think getting it down on, paper or a whiteboard, talking through it, seeing it, and then also understanding that if we can plan properly, I'm going to be okay. I can navigate a lot of these storms. I can handle it. Maybe I'll have to adjust my lifestyle. Maybe I'll buy a car every 5 years instead of every 3. You make some changes, but they're choices that you can make. I just think so much of what's important is it's in talking through those what if scenarios and understanding that I can navigate some of this hard stuff. Same thing with parenting a young daughter, first year of college. What are you most afraid of? And I mean, is that likely to happen? Okay, well, what if it does happen? What do you need to do to be prepared for that?
No, really, it resounded with me. We're working on the LifeRaft project, right? Yes. And you have been so lovely with bringing your own stories to the LifeRaft. And when Ryan brought up your LifeRaft drills, I loved it. I loved it so much. Okay, we can actually go through scenarios. We can run a drill. We can talk about the what ifs. I say it's putting the face to that monster that's so scary, and all of a sudden he's not so scary anymore.
100%.
I can identify him. I know what he looks like. So, he might roar and get really loud, but he's not that scary. But I like how you said put it in perspective. So if you're talking to, let's say, women, let's say a widow, okay, and you've run some of these drills, right? You've gone through this, and she comes in and you get that first phone call. And that is, I think it's important to talk about kind of the heaviness of that. I mean, that's a weight on your shoulders to get that first phone call, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so you get the phone call. The thing that we didn't want to happen has happened. What would you say to her? What are some of those first words that you're going to kind of wrap her up in based upon what you've heard and you've seen and you've already run in a drill?
Yeah, it's going to be okay. And oftentimes, we're crying with them because these are people that
I can see your emotions
have known potentially for a long time.
Yeah.
You're connected with them.
100%.
So you're feeling their pain, but it's also
personal.
It's going to be okay. And I think some of the best advice we can give is, you don't need to worry about that right now. Like, there are things that they do need to take care of right away, but there's a lot of things that can wait.
This can wait.
And so trying to just, I think, give them some assurance that you don't have to get through all of this right now. We're going to be right there beside you every step of the way. And hopefully the ideal scenario, we work with their other professional teams. So we know their estate attorney, we know their tax accountant. So we're working closely with them to really try to alleviate just some of those immediate fears. And I mean, there is some administration that has to happen, but we can simplify it and try to keep it, move it along. And again, but just that peace of mind. I can't emphasize that enough. So it's going to be okay. Do what you need to do with your family right now. Take time to process all of these things that maybe you're worried about. They can wait. There's not an urgency to a lot of it. So I think just having that that person you can call. And again, I can't emphasize enough. It's such a privilege and an honor to have that trust in place that you get that phone call and you can provide them some peace of mind during a tough time.
It's really beautiful. And that's actually one of the big questions we talk about it in LifeRaft. That's one of the, if not the biggest question that families ask. Are we going to be okay? It's exactly the question that keeps coming back over and over again. So I love that your first response is, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then you start to kind of cut away and get the main focus, right? I can't deal with this, and you don't have to, let me assure you. But I also heard you saying you're running things behind the scenes. You're starting to coordinate behind the scenes. You're keeping things moving along. But you're creating a space for them to grieve and for them to focus on the immediate need. Everything else will get handled. And we're going to help you with that. We're a good guide.
Absolutely.
That's my job. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
how
you.
important is it that spouse, if we're talking about a loss of a spouse, has been involved before that event?
Yes.
Have you seen it both ways?
I've seen it both ways.
Let's talk about that.
I've seen it both ways where, especially I think in a more traditional role, if I rewind in my career back to the early 2000s, tech bubble, I distinctly remember, some phone calls like, wait a minute, where's the money? Why were we in all these tech stocks? Again, that's why I wanted to go into planning and get to know both spouses.
So you had some people that lost spouses that then realized their spouse had been
investing a little aggressively. Yes,
Got it.
at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Scary.
I think those are good things of what not to do. But I think it's not uncommon in certain traditional relationships where you're going to have a spouse that has maybe more interest in the investment piece, and that is fine. But what we do really want to do is get to know both spouses, because it is important for them to have a comfort level with us. So in an ideal scenario, we've met both spouses, we've worked with both of them, we've talked through their goals,
Absolutely.
understand the plan together. And again, you might have a point person, which is fine. You should. If you're in a trusted relationship, you can delegate. You don't have to do everything, and you don't need to duplicate. But when we don't have any relationship with the spouse, I think that is really challenging, because if something does happen, I've seen it's worked out well where they're like, hey, my husband said to give you a call and that he trusted you, so I'm going to trust you, which is great. But we also would prefer to have those relationships up front. And then I would also add, we definitely are not licensed marriage counselors, but we often facilitate conversations that need to happen.
You're mediating.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we're just bringing up some questions, and oftentimes they didn't realize that they would answer it differently.
Sure.
And we're all busy. I'm married. I have kids. Like, I'm not having the conversations I should be having at home. You're living your busy lives. And so I think it is so important to try to be that safe space, that area that can facilitate conversations, that can talk through these goals, can talk through these fears, and then hopefully come to a unified front where they feel like, oh yeah, we're in lockstep. We're moving in the same direction. We're rowing the same way.
We're stronger for having had a conversation that we didn't know we needed to have.
Completely.
And we had a good guide
Yes.
mediating that conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. That's great.
It's the essence of what LifeRaft is about.
It is, actually.
We started this journey because we noticed that there's this thing happening in relationships, that there's some drift, and it's not intentional. But we want to not just prepare people for the loss of a spouse, but we want to help facilitate what the acronym is: Life, Living in Family Enterprise. How do we live a flourishing life? And it was interesting when Shannon first started talking about this, and you called and said,
Yeah, we had a great conversation.
We did.
if we can get vulnerable here.
Absolutely.
You said, hey, I feel some guilt.
I think you said convicted. I'm so convicted.
Absolutely. I think, Shannon, you were talking a little bit about, the genesis that you've had as a couple in terms of just realizing that Ryan's been an entrepreneur. He's been a financial advisor, wealth guide. And you're like,
And I've, of course, trusted him.
Yes. But you're like, wait a minute. What if something happens to you?
Come on, buddy.
Yeah, I was like,
Nothing will happen to me.
No.
I'm like, my husband just said something very similar. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's taken care of. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. We kind of, and John.
Yes.
So I actually loved something that you said to Ryan. It's not as if we have uneducated spouses that are unaware and don't know what's going on in the world. That's not what we're dealing with here. But we're working within something that is just like breathing to us. This is just second nature, and we just handle it. And then we go home, and I think you said he'll ask me a question and I'll just say to him, I've already taken care of it. It's fine. Don't worry. And you felt guilt.
Yes.
And I think my response to you was, no, I think you're fatigued at the end of the day because you've been doing this all day. And it's just second nature. And you know it's okay. And you know you've done your job for your family too.
Yes.
So you're just kind of ready to go into I'm home mode.
Right.
Yeah. And so giving yourself a little bit of grace instead of that guilt that you were feeling. But there's also that wake up call that we're realizing, that you're realizing, and we all need to have more conversations, more training.
Intentionality. Right?
Yes.
Completely. I don't know. I think there's an old cliche that's like, you can't learn a sport from your spouse or something. Like, I don't want my husband tried to teach me tennis, and I was like,
Same.
that's a disaster.
Same.
I tried to teach her tennis.
He tried to teach me tennis, and we just
She can't serve.
No. We very quickly said this is a mistake. We want to stay married.
So I think, as you mentioned, this is our world. We live and we breathe in this world. We live and we breathe with the investments, the planning. So when John asked me questions, it's taken care of, because I naturally I don't have that same level of patience that I should. So I think that's where, again, having that trusted team in place. He's joked and said, well, who's my financial advisor? And I'm like, okay, we need to get you on, because it can't be me. But I have told him, if something happens, I'm like, call Ryan, call Melissa, call Kim. Like, you've got the people in place to take care of you. But it is important. These conversations need to be happening. But you need that trusted partner. You need that facilitator. You need that guide, that person that can fill all those different roles. They can provide that education. They can facilitate conversation. They can mediate if needed. So I think that's also important, because while it's money, it's also emotional, because it is one way that we can potentially, achieve some of these goals that we want to achieve. And so it is emotional. It's personal. And then also spouses have a different lens that they look at when they're looking at money, based on their past experiences, based on their childhood.
Yes.
So that impacts it greatly.
I love
how
that you
secure
said
was
that.
their childhood. What kind of, jobs did their parents have? Was money really tight? Did they talk about money? Did they give generously? And so all of those things vastly impact how spouses look at money in their own lives. So I think those are conversations.
I love that you brought that up, because that is also in LifeRaft. We've learned so much in the psychology of money, just that the worldview of money that you have does get formed in your childhood. And we carry it with us, and then we carry it into our relationships. And we don't even necessarily understand where it's coming from or why we have that view of money. But exactly, it goes back to that early development and what we witnessed with money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those are often some of the questions we're asking when we're first meeting with a couple. And it never fails to amaze me. Oftentimes, like, the couples will be like, oh, that's why you're that way with money.
Wow.
And so there are these light bulb moments where, again, if we just go back in time and, what was your mom's job? What was your dad's job? Did they talk about money? Did they talk about investing? And then it really brings out some great stories, and then oftentimes helps spouses understand each other. And, that's why, you always buy the generic brand and I tell you not to. Or,
right. Exactly.
So it just helps.
I think there is something incredibly powerful, and the word that I'm thinking is sweet to this, because instead of this hurried, can we just get on with business? Can you just sign the papers? Can you just let me do my job and take care of your portfolio, and just, I'll see you in a year for the review. You're stopping and saying, what was it like when you were a kid? How did it look in your house? And all of a sudden, relationship can get stronger. And maybe we can learn something about ourselves and why we tick the way we tick.
100%.
And it can be healing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clients that tell their stories of, living in a hotel, living in their car.
Paycheck to paycheck. Not always
wanting, it's interesting, wanting some of the same things for their family, but also wanting to give them a better a better life. And it's hard to balance that. The way we attach to money based on how we were raised is such a vital component in this thing.
Well, it can
Shannon called the
our
psychology of money.
relationships. It can impact our relationships.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to live, as you said, in family enterprise. But how can we do that if we don't even understand what the dynamic is between us and why it's there?
And then are you intentionally choosing that? I mean, I think that's the other thing. We all have our defaults that we lean into. So when you have the conversation, you're like, oh, that is why I default that way, but I don't want to default that way.
And I recognize I don't have to.
Right.
If I'm willing to learn and change, work with my trusted advisor, this good guide, and kind of stretch and get vulnerable. It's not always comfortable,
right?
But it can be so good.
Absolutely.
So freeing.
Absolutely.
I had a situation where we were talking, similar, just drawing out information, and it came out that this gentleman had a list in his desk of things he wanted to do at some point during his life, and his wife is sitting here and has no idea that list exists.
Wow.
And they both go to tears, and and it was through that process then that they even learned that they could start thinking about retirement.
Right.
And a few months later and getting a phone call. And so it was just fun to see facilitation of conversation and then to now watch them living this, I think, flourishing life because they took steps that they otherwise wouldn't have. What sticks out to me is how, I've probably watched this half a dozen times. People get to retirement and they're gone within a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happens all the time. We know this.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you've probably seen that.
I was going to say, have you had this happen?
And,
yes.
And so I think that's part of this worth beyond wealth that we want to talk about. So any stories that come to mind or any?
Well, I think it does happen. And I think similar to the conversation with a new widow, a new retiree, we want to get them excited about that next chapter. But it's also a conversation about, I think, being patient. Like this is another major life transition, and maybe you don't quite know what it's going to look like, but try a few different things. And I think the other piece that we're facilitating that conversation well in advance of retirement, and I think that helps.
In your drills?
Just talking about what does it look like? What do you want it to look like?
Because this is control and this is safety and this is security. There wasn't enough, and I have to hold very tightly.
When
to
you've been seeing money go in and the account balance grow and grow and grow for 3-4 decades, and we're asking them to shift.
Right.
So one of the things.
No more saving.
Right.
Start taking. Wait, that's
But if we talk about our
uncomfortable.
brain and the way that we're wired, this neuroplasticity, we've talked, our brains have the ability to learn and shift and grow and change and mold. But if you've heard the phrase fire together, wire together, these neural pathways for all of these years have been firing in one direction: save, invest, right? Plan,
build,
prepare,
accumulate.
build, all of it. So we've been firing in one direction, and then one day we're supposed to fire in a different direction, and we're supposed to draw that down. Well, that's all of a sudden very I know that's been the goal, but I haven't been doing it. And so now I don't know how to do that.
Right. Yeah. So we're having those conversations. We know one of the planning tools we use runs a Monte Carlo simulation, and of clients with a score of 99, and I tell them you can't get 100 and you don't want 100. You're not taking this with you. Remember these dreams, these goals you've talked about?
Those memories you're trying to encourage them to make.
And some of it is spending some money, some of it's giving away. Maybe you want to start this scholarship fund at your alma mater. Like maybe there's different things that are important to you. So again, running them through their plan so that they can see they're okay. They're okay financially. But you're right. It's a major mental, emotional shift to start spending their assets. But we try to
give permission. I love that.
I've been thinking about this concept of today versus tomorrow and how our industry historically puts more emphasis on tomorrow. And I think that they're both important.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you're saying here is that you can't just save and save and save forever. And who cares if you leave a big, nest egg, but you miss out on experiences, you miss out on a relationship. Kids don't just want your wealth. or
Right.
maybe they don't want your wealth. They
Right.
they want you. They want a
They want you.
relationship, right? So I think that we need to honor both, and somehow, how do you, beyond what you've already said, maybe guide people in this concept of let's honor today and tomorrow. We need to save appropriately, but we also need to have experiences. Have you read Die with Zero?
Yeah, I was going to ask you
I
about
have
Die with
not.
Zero.
You heard that?
But I'm
I mean,
curious
it's
about
not-
it. I've heard
it's not the idea that you really need to have zero at death. It's the
No.
idea that experiences need to happen in the
Along the
right
way.
order in life, because guess what, Raleigh? You can't take your infant or toddlers back to Disneyland,
Right.
right? You can't have
Right.
those kind of experiences. So if we say no, save, we can miss out on certain things.
I go back to the word, what are the words? What are you intentionally choosing? And so if you're in retirement and yes, you want to just keep building this, be intentional. Is that what you're choosing?
Yeah.
But what are you saying no to as well? And so I think it's just facilitating those conversations, asking the right questions so that they can understand, I'm choosing this. I don't want it to be fear-based. Like, we want to try to address the fears. And so if the fears are addressed, are you intentionally choosing this path over another? And it's often, in fact, it just happened last week where, I met with a client for a review, and in this scenario, it was like, oh, we talked about this is a year for a new car. He's like, oh no, I'm good. A few days later, called in, spoke with one of our other advisors. Oh yeah, I met with Raleigh, and you know what? We are going to go buy that new car. We actually do want that new car. So sometimes it's just reminding them that we planned for this, we prepared for it. The money is set aside for that. It's fine if you don't want to do that.
That's fine.
But
Yeah.
but it's just, again, back to
Permission.
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 Just a little silly.
No, it's
Saved, you've worked hard, you've been a good steward of your money. What do you want to do with it? And another, I guess, one of my favorite examples, it's a family that we have the privilege of, I guess, serving 3 generations. But they did a major family trip. But every single one of those family members that I spoke with was like, best memory ever. Like, just, it had such impact. Whether it was 22-year-old grandson or 55-year-old, adult son, like the impact was amazing. The memories they made, and that's always stood out to me. And I thought, gosh, someday if I can do that with my kids and their spouses and our grandkids, how special to just be able to take one of those once in a lifetime trips and do that as a family and make those memories together.
That's really precious. I love that.
And I know that cost a lot of money. But grandma funded. So
Thanks, Grandma. Yeah. So on stewardship, how do you keep, so we've talked a lot about marriages or relationships, but how do you keep both voices engaged in a couple over that long run? How do you try to keep them both engaged, both feeding the conversation, both having a voice?
Great question, Shannon. I think it ebbs and flows. I think, as I mentioned, it's not uncommon that one spouse has more interest in this topic.
Sure.
So perhaps, I think a win for me is if we can sit down together at least once a year. So if we can try to have that face-to-face connection at least once a year with both spouses.
At a minimum.
At a minimum.
What would you
Yes.
prefer?
Probably depends on the situation. I think once a year is fine, because as long as you're able to really connect and make sure that we're still rowing in the same direction for everyone's goals, and make sure that those fears aren't suddenly accumulating. I would also add, if there's a health issue that happens, that oftentimes gets both spouses re-engaged, because now, our fragility feels real again. So I think if we have that relationship built, if they know they can reach out and they're willing to sit down, and it's not too painful once a year to go through everything. We try to keep it fun. I think that's the
once a year
good
at a
scenario.
minimum. But
Yeah.
if an unexpected life event happens, or if there's some fears that we're starting to percolate, and gosh, we met 3 months ago, but I feel this way.
call.
Okay.
Absolutely call. And we don't want, if there's anything keeping you up at night, we're a phone call away. And maybe that results in a meeting, but oftentimes it's just a phone call. And then oftentimes as we're talking through, it often has nothing to do with the initial fear. It's like digging deeper. oh, there's something else going on. That's really, referred pain is maybe a term in the medical world.
Yes.
So I think that's not not that different in the financial world. Where I'm frustrated, I'm scared, this is coming out. Oh, this is the real issue. And so that's where we just have to take time. We have to be patient. We have to listen. We have to ask those questions and really understand what's going on.
It's a systems check.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you kind of find often there's a symptom. And we want to pay attention because pain, let's say pain, that's not a bad thing. Everybody is like, pain's bad. Pain can actually be really beneficial because it is an alert and it's telling us we need to do a systems check. And then we can go down and find, oh, it's actually here. Okay. So instead of waiting that year, we dealt with it very quickly. And then once that review comes up, it's a really great review.
That's a great analogy. Write that down, Ryan. We got to think through a systems check.
Systems check.
There's some pain. There's some fear happening.
Not a bad thing. Really good.
Let's make sure we're checking all the boxes, and then we might discover, oh, that's really what's scary. Like in some cases, maybe it's your sleep at night, your savings account. Maybe you dipped into it, and now let's replenish that. I mean, or just simple little things that we can. Address.
And it's kind of funny because, someone will come in and say, I'm having this pain. And instead of, oh, I'm sorry you're having pain. And yet I'm not, because I'm so glad that you're here.
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah. What's going on? How can we help?
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
Really good.
What's been on my mind is, there's this historic transfer of wealth happening. And I've had two situations where I've thought about this. So one was I was presenting at an organization. And I looked around the room at the business owners, and it was about 25 men and 2 or 3 women. The data says that most of those men have spouses. Most of those men are probably the ones taking care of the money decisions right now because they're running businesses, so they're the ones that know. And yet, that's right.
Sorry, I had to emphasize that.
And yet. At some point, they're not going to be there. And that spouse is going to find themselves responsible for, in this case, large family wealth, what we call, a family enterprise that in many cases is bigger than most businesses ever grow to. I think most businesses, the vast majority, 90%, maybe never get to $1 million in sales. So these largely women will find themselves in charge of something that they're not equipped for. And I think that's what is resonating with me about LifeRaft.
I'm going to maybe interject and just say, it's not that they're not equipped for it. They haven't been prepared for it.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I think, and that's just here and just some of the research that I had pulled, just many women reporting feeling unprepared. To manage that windfall of inheritance. And so those challenges and considerations that are coming up, low confidence in managing inherited wealth. I thought this was interesting. A significant share of women have not yet opened investment accounts or established estate plans on their own. Like they've never touched this world. It's all been done for them. That resonated personally with me because I remember the day we were sitting in our dining room and I'd been involved, you would say, hey, this opportunity's come up. I really feel that we should. And, oh, okay, that sounds great. I'd love to meet him. But you said to me one day, I think you should make the next investment. What do you want to do? And I cried because no one had ever asked me that before. And so that was really a growing opportunity for us in our marriage. And the fact that, oh, you're my financial advisor. But I had never been asked that question, right? And so I look at this and I think, oh, there's a whole world that can open up for women, right? Who are not in finance. And so how can RW get ready for this great opportunity to prepare women?
Yeah. I think that's so important. And I think I think oftentimes women do still have a heavier load of the historical home responsibilities.
They do.
So whether it's caring for the young kids, whether it's taking them to school, drop off the household duties, aging
doctors' appointments, aging On and on.
all of those things. So I think it's challenging. So it's also meeting them where they are.
I love that, Riley.
So what?
Because you're not wanting to overwhelm.
Correct.
You're
So
wanting
much
to
of it
simplify
is-
this.
Yes. So it's meeting them where they are today and what can they take on today. So I think that's going to look different in every scenario.
agree.
So first and foremost, it's letting them know that we exist. Hi, Shannon. I'm here.
I love it. I'm here.
I'm here. If
I'm
you
on your
have any
side.
questions, if you're scared, call. I'm here.
Are my questions stupid?
No questions are stupid.
Okay.
And I think that's, in fact,
Should I know this? Why don't I know this?
right.
Why would you
just
have to?
walking through all of it. And but back to that initial, gosh, if we can take one meeting a year to start, like, and I know at certain times in your lives, that seems overwhelming.
Yep.
Okay, I gotta get childcare. I need to arrange for this, but you know what? Let's sit down for one meeting a year. And then what I've noticed is the curiosity happens and the trust goes up. And then you start having maybe more frequent meetings, or then an email happens or a phone call.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it doesn't have to happen all at once. In fact, that can be overwhelming.
Or maybe it's still an annual meeting, but all of a sudden you're not as quiet as you were.
Yes.
You have a lot more to ask or
Yes.
say or participate in.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then really, providing that safe space that, okay, this is what Ryan is, curious about, but what's Shannon curious about? And so just really trying to open, it's going back to some of those questions, like, what was your childhood like? And, and so again, that informs so much information about how we look at money, how we think about money, how we think about spending, saving, investing, all of it. So I think meeting them where they are, which guess what? Maybe it has to do with their aging parents. Maybe all of their questions right now have nothing to do with their own personal finances, but they're like, you know what? I need to be introduced to an elder law attorney. I need to know how to navigate this with mom. I need to know.
Do I have the money to help care for her if they don't have?
Completely. So often it's just all of those questions that are happening first too.
That's
so just being there.
For last thoughts, what is your definition of real wisdom?
Gray hair. No, I'm kidding.
Great.
I don't think you have to be though. I mean, I think that's an interesting, and it's why we talk about stewardship, right?
Correct.
So you can be a fiduciary and you have passed your test yesterday, so you have no experience. So I think there is a real depth to this definition that comes with experience.
Absolutely. All I can think about right now is, again, since I dropped my daughter off at college, I have an 18-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old daughter, and they're brilliant, and they are little sponges, and they can absorb things so quickly, and there's so many things that they are better at than I am. But I tell them, but I have time and wisdom and maturity, and which they just laugh at. Yeah, you're old, that there is just something about, gosh, I've experienced this, or I've witnessed this scenario, or so I think real wisdom, it doesn't have to be about age or maturity necessarily, but it does take some experience, some observation, some collective exposure.
Would
So I
you say
guess
some humility?
absolutely, which I think maybe that comes with age. I think that's hard to have
Maybe.
right away.
I don't think it always does.
No, it doesn't. But so yes, just talking through, finding that guide, finding that mentor, be willing to listen, be humble. You don't have all the answers. And with our teenagers, your brains aren't fully developed. So I love to remind them that. So
yes.
I need to be.
I tell them all the
frontal
time.
cortex.
Yeah, I tell them all the time. Your frontal lobe is very squishy.
Yes, that's
So
why I'm
squishy.
here. So we're helping guide them. I'm not sure I answered that fully,
No,
Ryan,
I
but
think that's a great answer.
I think it's a combination of all of that.
It's experience and humility.
Yes.
Experience and humility.
Yes.
Gray hair is a great one-liner.
Oftentimes knowing what you don't know.
You don't have any though.
That's
Don't go there,
that gets
Ryan.
fixed every few months.
Don't go there, Warwick.
I think it's powerful in being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, I don't know what I don't know."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so asking questions. My younger daughter is looking at colleges, looking at playing college soccer. We're going through the recruiting process. I very often am encouraging her to ask them, what do you think I should be thinking about? Or, just turn the role around, because we don't know everything. And so being humble enough to say, I don't know, this is my first time going through this.
Right.
What do you think I should be considering? What are some non-negotiables? And, just not that you're going to agree with everything, but having the conversation. So I think that's wisdom.
That's good.
One thing that just constantly comes back to me is when I walked through this program, the Chartered Financial Analyst program, and I learned a lot. But at the end of that program, I felt like now I just know how much information is out there in the world. Not that I'm an expert. So my humility actually grew. My awareness of all the things that existed that I didn't even know before. And I'm sure you had a similar experience through the CFP program. But I think that's an important aspect of looking for a guide. I mean, I think at RW, we try to bring wisdom. And wisdom is this combination of experience mixed with humility. And we talk about the care, skill, and caution we bring to relationships based on our experience and education. So yeah, we want to have industry best credentials and education, but man, we have to have some gray hair and some humility. So any last words on any of that?
I think I would just add, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And you just, I think, summarize that. Oftentimes when we go through some advanced training, we realize what we don't know. But also having the perspective of, I will find out that answer.
Yep.
Like, who should I talk to?
Yep.
Who should I connect you with? And being humble enough to make those phone calls. Understand, hey, this is something I haven't seen before. And I think that's what's really special about RW is we often are sitting in a meeting with our advisors. Hey, I have this situation come up. Have you seen this before?
That's so good.
And often, collectively, one of us have been through something similar, so we can help point them in the right direction. Let's call this other professional. Let's do this. So I think that's so important.
That's
is
beautiful.
Just the shared experience, the shared wisdom. Back to being humble enough. I don't have all the answers. I could probably find the answer.
But that's a steward, right?
Yeah.
Hey team, I don't know, but I have to do what's best for this client. Help me serve them well. That's really beautiful. And I know we said we'd wrap up, but I do have a question. Like, as a mom who just dropped off this beautiful girl at school, what would you say to a young lady who came to you and said, "Hey, Mrs. Vachek, what would you say to me? I'm thinking about going into finance. I don't know anything about this." What would you say to a young lady who is interested in the financial industry?
I would say jump in. I think you can do hard things. And oftentimes, again, I don't know why, but oftentimes I've seen it with my young daughters. You get to a certain point in school and they start opting out of certain classes.
Yeah.
But I constantly remind them, like, lean into that. You can do hard things. And then I also, at least in our area of finance, we're so blessed. Yes, there's so many important things that happen behind the scenes that are numbers. It's data. And that is very important, but it's the human piece. So connection. I would encourage any young individuals today to go do some job shadowing, find some people in the community, find mentors, look for internship opportunities. I think the more real life experiences you can have, the better. As I mentioned, my story, I mean, that's how I fell into this career was I'm thankful I had a professor that asked some of those questions, and then I happened upon a job shadow that turned into a job. And so I think just be open. And then the other piece of advice, which my mom gave me, which I try to tell my children too, no job is beneath you. So just realizing that where you start is not where you end. But jump in and be willing to do whatever. Even if you think you're overqualified for it, be willing to file paperwork, be willing to scan documents, be willing to do things that feel beneath your qualifications, but no job is beneath you. So it does come back to that humility. I think that humility is really important.
It's that humility. And I guarantee you, when you're scanning those documents or you're filing that paperwork, you'll learn something you didn't know.
If you're open. Yeah.
I typed data into a DOS system for 2 years.
Yes. You got really good
That's right.
techie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
This was
Raleigh.
fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Worth Beyond Wealth podcast. If you liked this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. The highest compliment you could give would be sharing this with a friend. Thank you. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. RW Investment Management, LLC, DBA RW Investment Management is a registered investment advisor. Testimonials given by current clients are not in exchange for compensation. This document is solely for informational purposes. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RWIM and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. Past performance is no guarantee of future returns. Investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. No advice may be rendered by RWIM unless a client service agreement is in place. RWIM is not a legal or tax advisor.